Welcome back to If the Spaghetti Sticks podcast. I am your host, Lauren Ruggiero, and my podcast is different because I walk and I talk, and it helps me get concepts and what I'm thinking out there better in a more cohesive form instead of sitting and talking. This podcast is going to be about more so like what happened at the wedding that I went to and going home and future and the scariness of everything. Honestly, before the wedding, my mom's wedding is what I'm referring to, for those of you guys who don't listen to my podcast. I went home for a wedding, my mother's wedding, to get remarried. And before, I was very nervous to go back home, but also excited. Like, it was a mix, right? Now, being away for 7 months or 8 months with like one visit in that 7 to 8 month period, it's when you go home, it's nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting. Now, I learned that a lot of my family on my mom's side was going to the wedding, and I haven't seen these people in 10 plus years, I mean, obviously, some of them see things on Facebook or whatever, so they get the gist of it, but they don't know what I was like, not like a little kid. And, this was the first time where they see, my hair cut like this, not in the picture at least, but it was, kind of nerve-wracking to talk to my family again, especially since, I haven't really been in touch with them at all. Also, there's deer. Look at it. Yeah, I haven't really been in contact with them, because people are busy and, you get sidetracked and you're trying to figure out everything, and I don't know, it's just life, it happens. So it's really scary, and of course, when you go into any family event, it's always like, so what are you doing? What are you doing now? What's your plan for the future? And you kind of have to know, so I was ultimately preparing for those questions. And I think I answered them with the best thing that I had at the time. Because I don't know if a lot of them watch my videos or something. I don't really know. I go into the situation assuming that, they don't watch any of my videos. They just kind of look at pictures and stuff like that. So I kind of go in assuming that's what they know. And so I tell them, I say, hey, I'm out in California. It's not the best, but, it's pretty, life out here is very different than the East Coast. But, yeah, so I tell them what I do. I tell them where I live, all this stuff. And then I tell them the plan for the future. I'm going to go move back on the East Coast because the West Coast is just not for me. And Haley's coming with me, and I don't know, might visit more family often, and I don't know. But yeah, so it's very overwhelming, and there's lots of people, and most of them is your family, and, you kind of have to know what you're gonna say in these situations. And, with me, with social anxiety and all of the other things, I have to, think of, the worst situation, and I have to think of all the questions they could ask me and kind of go over my brain what they're going to ask me and what I'm going to say. So that was really given me anxiety before. But I was also really excited to go home because I get to see, you know, my family and my brother and his girlfriend and my cat. She's getting old, and, you know, you never really know when it's the last time you're going to see someone. And so it's hard, you know, leaving it. But I don't know, like, you know, and everyone's growing up and everyone's older, and it's kind of like a weird thing when you haven't seen somebody in years, you know, and you have this image of them in your brain of what they look like, and then it's just like completely different when you get to see them. It's like this weird dynamic, and you're like, oh man, like, I'm getting old and everybody else is getting old, and like, I don't know what to do, like, I can't stop it, and, you know, I'm so far away from these people, and like, I just, you know, it kind of brings that sheer overwhelming factor, right? Everything's very overwhelming, right? Because it's just like, man, like, time's not gonna stop, like, you know, you just never know. And that's like the most scariest part, I think, of everything. And, you know, not only do I have, you know, my family asking questions, I have my, you know, step family asking questions, and like, you know, what you doing, where you going, you're like, how are you? And this is a lot of people, very overwhelming. But the wedding was fun. It was at this cute, like, country house kind of thing. You know, in North Carolina, they have these like old houses, really old houses, and they kind of make them into venues and stuff. So, but yeah, it was fun, you know, a really small wedding, but you know, it was good to see everybody and everything. Yeah, it's really special, and I was only there for like, let's see, I got there on Wednesday, like at 4 p.m. and then I left on Saturday at noon. So I was only there for a little bit, you know, and the wedding was on Friday, so yeah, I was only there for a little bit. Dude, I had to get a cavity. Like, they found a spot on my tooth. It was like a hole, and they had to freaking give me a shot and fill it, and I was like, oh my god. Like, I've never had one of those before. Like, I've had them fill my tooth before, but like not with the whole numbing thing and everything else. They didn't have to drill or nothing, but I don't know. That was scary. You know, then I went and got a pedicure and talked to people, you know, talked to my mom about what's going on, what's the plan, you know, when am I going to see him next? I don't know. That's also another thing. At the end of your trip, when you go back home, they're like, oh, so like, you know, when you coming back, when you going to see us again? And you literally have no idea, because, you know, life goes so freaking fast, and things happen, and you're worrying about all these different things like jobs and when they start and when you get a break, and it's just like, it's, you know, you're just like, I don't know, like, I don't know when I'm going to be back. So that's also scary as well, because, you know, nobody really knows when you're going to come back, and I don't really know, you know. So again, like, you know, you got to count your blessings, I guess, because you never know when you're going to see someone for the last time. So yeah, it's hard, you know. And where I live here in California, like most of you guys know, it's not the best living situation, as I say in almost every video that I make. But it isn't, you know, it really isn't, based off of, like, you know, my past and what I've gotten the opportunity to live in and stuff. So, you know, being home and being in a nice, kept up environment, you know, with food and everything, it's nice. It really is. And I think that, you know, when you leave, it's really like, damn. It's really like, dang. Like, it's nice here. I don't want to go. it's like, I miss it. And, when I got back to California, I was just like, yeah, I don't feel good. Like, I feel like crap. Like, that's probably also the jet lag as well, but it's always like the environment does have an effect in your body, and it still has an effect on mine right now. Like, it's been 2 days, and it's sad. It's just like, man, I just don't want to leave purely because I just don't want to go back. But yeah, it's quite interesting. But me and my brother, at least, we were in the same boat, because I was like, dude, I don't think I'm ready to talk to family about, my plans and what I'm doing and everything. And he goes, yeah, they're going to ask me, like, what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to be like, I don't know. And I'm like, yep, I feel ya. I don't really know what I'm doing either. I kind of got an idea, but still, it's like, it's no, But I guess nobody really has it figured out, I guess. That's what I'm coming to learn. Like, nobody has an idea. So it's really scary to everybody, I guess. You kind of never really get rid of that feeling, is what I'm collecting from others. That, no matter how much you plan, how much you think you're going to do something, there's always something that happens and it's just out of your control. I'll tell you what, though, sometimes navigating an airport is really tricky, because, I haven't flown a lot of places. I've always, like, drove or, like, something like that. But, some of the bigger airports, like Chicago or, like, Atlanta, places like that, I always get really confused. Like, obviously you follow all the signs, right? But I'll tell you what, I had layovers in Atlanta, and I've never been to Atlanta airport before. So when I got there for the first time, going to North Carolina, I was like, okay, where's my gate? I was looking at my app. I was like, okay, where's the next gate? And it was like C whatever, and I was in D or E, the international one, the international gate. And I was like, okay, great. And then I was just like walking towards the sign that say like ABC, and went down, led to escalators. I was like, escalators, okay, I guess it's on the bottom floor or whatever. And then I see a train, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get on a train. And I was, the time was like close to when, the boarding was saying it was going to board. And so I was like, oh man, like, I don't know if I'm going to, make it or whatever. And there was an option to walk, and it said to gate C, 30 minutes. And I was like, 30 minutes? I was like, I don't have 30 minutes. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait for the train. I hope the train is going in the right direction. And so I was like having a little panic attack, but I was like, no, Lauren, like, we can't do this right now. We can't freak out, because, like, there's no one else here to help you. So you got to keep your head level and keep going. So I got on the train. Sardines, packed with other people. I guess, that weekend was a weekend for, people to fly or whatever, or that week, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, if I miss my flight, I'm going to be screwed. And so I was running, passing people, people getting out of the way because they knew, like, oh, she's in trouble. And so I was running, and I ran to the gate, and the gate was like, delayed. And I was like, oh my God, I ran for nothing. But yeah, so it ended up being delayed, and I was like, well, at least, I had time. So that's always a good thing. It always works out that way, I suppose. I also want to talk about something else. So when I flew to Charlotte and I got picked up by my dad. And, I was talking to him and everything. It's good to see him, because, when you haven't seen somebody in a long time, you can, you just tell, like, it's just weird, I guess. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But anyways, and he brought me to the house, and, I see my cat, and I'm like, oh my God, Rosie, all that stuff. And I love my cat. And then, I get acquainted in the space that used to be my room. And it's like everything's kind of, moved into like this corner. It's like this Lauren's corner. And you look around and just like, man, like I used to do this here, or I used to do that, or, these people that were over in this space, and it was just like weird. And then I was showering, and it was like, first off, clean shower, clean sink. And then I got out of the shower. The shower head was high enough so where I can fully stand under it and get, everything clean, which I don't have that luxury here. I have to bend down in order to get my head. Anyway, but I got out of the shower and I was drying off, and I was like, man, like, this does not feel like home. Like, I feel like I'm at a hotel right now. Like, I feel like I'm at an Airbnb, and like, it's just like this weird feeling. Like, it's like not my home anymore. It's like just a house. And, it feels like not me anymore. It just feels like it's, I don't know. It didn't feel like mine anymore. It just felt like I was visiting like a friend's house or something. Like, it was this weird feeling, and I didn't know what to do with it. I just was like, okay, I got my clothes out from the cabinet and put them on and go sleep. And I slept in a different room that wasn't my room because there's sheets on the bed and stuff. But yeah, it's just this weird feeling that I just really can't describe. But it was very like, I don't know, like I felt like, lonely, I guess, kind of. Like, I mean, obviously Haley didn't go with me, but like still, like the time when I went home for like in Christmas and stuff, I felt like, this is home. Like, this is, where I am, and I've only been away for like a couple months at that point. I moved in September, and, we went back in December. So it was only a few months. And I was like, it's still my home and everything. And now, since December, I, came home, and it's April now. So it's been a hot minute, and it just didn't feel like my house. It just felt like, I was visiting somebody. And I've never really like had anyone talk about that before. Maybe it's just like a me feeling, but it's just like, I feel like I literally don't have a place to call home. I mean, there's people that are home, but it's like there's no place where I feel like I'm protected in, I guess. Like I don't know how to describe it, where like I can put my stuff and feel safe, I guess. Like here in California, I for sure don't feel safe. I already talked about that in the last podcast episode, but or maybe 2 podcasts ago. But I was just like, I don't have a place where, I feel like this is mine. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I feel very like on the outside. So I don't know, like I've never really experienced that before, and I guess that's what happens when you move out. Maybe. But I also don't have an apartment, so I can't really justify that when I've kind of just been moving around a lot. So if you get a job with housing or whatever else, and you're like moved out technically of your parents' house, you find yourself in this weird in-between state of like, you're trying to find a home for yourself, but you haven't yet. And so you're kind of stuck in this in-between state where you're vulnerable, you're out in the open, and you're kind of subjected to making whatever place you're at the current moment your quote-unquote home. And it's not the best feeling in the world because, like, you just don't feel like making it your home. But it is what it is, I guess. I chose it, so, you got to do it. But yeah, I've never seen videos or met anybody who kind of did this whole camp life and was in the in-between of living places and had this experience, because it feels very weird. It feels like you're not in control of anything, so you have to just get used to what it is, because it is. So it's quite interesting. And another thing, speaking of living in between, I have still so much stuff at my dad's house and my mom's house, actually. And it's just man, I don't know what to do with all of this stuff. Because if I happen to move to an apartment, which I will eventually, I don't know how long I'm going to be in that apartment for. And also, I'm moving to a city, so I don't know how much space I'm going to have. And my dad's moving soon. He wants to get a piece of land and build a house and all this stuff. And so that means I probably got to get my stuff out of there before the whole moving thing happens. And I'm just man, it's going to be a lot in the future. Because if I don't have a house by then and I'm still in small apartments, it's just going to be a nightmare. I either got to get a storage unit or something, But I don't know. It's all a little stressy at this point, at this stage of my life, 22 years old, I feel like it's very overwhelming. And so I try to distract myself with anything I can to kind of stop me from thinking or overthinking about the future. So I tend to just do videos and watch movies and shows and stuff to kind of just, get out of this world and escape into another one. Escapism is quite a fun thing. But I don't know. It's quite interesting. I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of people want to escape this world. And it's the premise of a lot of movies, escapism. And I don't know. Maybe it's the idea that we just get so stressed out that we just rather see someone else stressed out and see how they deal with their problems before we do. But yeah, I stepped off the plane in SFO and I was man, I don't want to be here. It was raining and just did not help anything. It was cold. North Carolina was warm, it was humid when I got there. I was man, it's hot here. I'm wearing pants and sweatshirt and everything. And then I got accustomed to it. And when I got to SFO, I was oh no, why is it so cold? Why is it raining? This is not supposed to be California. So, but yeah, I was just very in a state of overwhelm, I guess. The interesting part about flying, though, that I think it's interesting. So when you're flying solo, like I was flying solo, and I got the cheapest tickets, obviously. My mom paid for them, and she got the cheapest tickets, which honestly I don't blame her because, going from California to North Carolina, it's pricey. It's very pricey for sure. So she got the cheapest tickets, which obviously was fine. And it was on Delta, which is way better than Frontier. If anyone has seen my California to Minnesota to Charlotte, that vlog, you guys know what my Frontier experience was like. But yeah, so I'm thanking God that it wasn't a 24-hour layover. Instead, it was just an hour. But anyways, when you fly on Delta and it's like the cheapest seat, you end up in a middle seat, squished between two people, and you pray to God that, they smell okay and they're just not coughing or have any sickness. So I can't remember, on the way here, on the way home, I was sitting between two people. I think they didn't really talk to me. I was sitting next to this lady on my left, and there was a guy on my right, and they didn't really talk much. The lady, when I sat down, she was like, "Hi, how you doing?" I was like, "Good, how are you?" And she's like, "Good." And that was it. That was all we spoke. And then I had an hour flight sitting in the middle against the bathroom, and I was smelling the bathroom for an hour, which is fine. At least it wasn't on the 5-hour one. But I'll tell you what, though, on the 5-hour plane from like SFO to Atlanta, they got the TV screens. So I tell you what, I was binge watching Hunger Games. And honestly, that 5 hours turned into like 3. But yeah, so that was pretty fun. And then on the way back, I got a window seat. And I looked out the window and all I could see was the jet. Literally no sky, no ground, no nothing, just the jet of the plane. And then I was sitting next to a mother and a son. And the son had a bloody nose. And I was like, okay, well, at least, they're nice or whatever. They didn't really talk to me that much either. So they just kind of, did their own thing or slept. And then on the way back, I sat next to this guy. He was hacking up a lung. But there was only 2 seats on one side and there was 3 seats on the other side. So I got lucky and I got the 2-seater. So I got the window and it was just this sick guy next to me. I tell you, he was munching on this cinnamon gum. Okay, like the big red stuff, the cinnamon stuff. He was munching on every 10 minutes. He would cough, drink some orange Gatorade, and pop in another stick of that cinnamon gum. He had 5 pieces of gum by the time we landed in his mouth. I was just like, okay, whatever, dude. If that helps you from coughing, it's whatever. But I guess it's this time where it's spring starting, pollen is coming. So, there's allergies and stuff. I get it. But still, it's kind of gross. No mask and stuff like that. And then on the 5-hour flight, I was on a wait list to get onto the plane. And they were offering someone to, get bumped for $500. And honestly, to me, that wasn't worth it because it was leaving pretty late. And, the flight, I feel like I just kind of wanted to get it over with. And I also wanted to have dinner with my girlfriend. So I was just like, it's not really worth it to me right now at this moment in time. Because also that meant I would have had to get food and everything like that. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to get it over and done with. So I was sitting there. There was 5 of us. There was a man with a kid. He had some anger issues. He was trying to get up, trying to get a seat because we were unassigned seats. So he was trying to get seats, he was like, this is stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then there was another lady, and then there was a lady behind me, but she took the 500. And so I was like, okay, let's just see. Because if I get bumped, I'm guaranteed to get double of what I paid for the flight. So that would have been $400 something plus another $400 something, right? So I was like, okay, if I get bumped, it's not gonna be the end of the world because I'll get $800. Well, at least my mom will. But so I was just sitting there patiently, and the guy was like, okay, you can go. And then the guy with the kid was so pissed. But there was only 1 seat, and I got the last middle seat all the way in the back against the bathroom. And so I luckily could put my carry-on overhead because it was a big backpack with my camera stuff in it. And I sat in between these two women, and one was coming from Brazil, which she already took a bump flight. And then the other one was from Atlanta, right? It was from where we were flying out of. So she was going to take it because she was just going to go home, but they had enough room. So I was sitting between these women, and I was like, the lady to my left was like, what is that smell? And I'm like, it's the bathrooms because it's right behind us. And she goes, oh, that's what that is? I'm like, yeah, unfortunately. So we're going to be smelling it for like 5 hours. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, these seats should be discounted. I said, yes, but unfortunately, it's not how this works. And the lady from Brazil was like, well, it's worse for me. I'm on the outside, and when people come out, it drags the air with them. And so we were just kind of all laughing about it because, we were all stuck in it together. And, sometimes the lady who would serve us would like skip me, and we would kind of laugh about it and everything. And then, whatever. And when one of us needed to go to the bathroom, we all got up and we all kind of just like stood around because we were like, it's good to have a break, So we were all kind of just went to the bathroom and sat down. It's fun, when you get along with your seatmates, and it's kind of like this mutual thing of like respect and everything. I obviously tried to crack like a few jokes and they laughed at me. Or more so with me, I should say. But yeah, it was a bunch of fun, that 5-hour one, because we were all getting really stiff and everything, and it was funny. But yeah, so that was really interesting flight experience. But I think, you're more susceptible to meet people when you're a solo flyer versus when you have somebody with you, because you're intimidating when you have more people with you versus when you're just alone. So there's that for you. Anyway, I have a Patreon, and if you want to go support me, you can join my Patreon. I have photo collections, short videos, and also long form videos weekly. So if you want to go check those out, you can. It's really fun. Great way to get in contact with me. Yeah, I'm moving soon, so literally anything helps at this point. And I will see you guys on the next podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you're on Spotify, give it a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, give it a like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'll see you guys later on If the Spaghetti Sticks. My name's Lauren. Thank you for joining me today.